after the radio call-ins after the meltdown. Tonight, Charlie Sheen gives his first live television interview to me. Everyone in Hollywood's asking the same thing. What is he thinking? Now Charlie Sheen tells me, in his own words, no holds barred. This is a special live edition of Piers Morgan Tonight. And this was the scene just a few minutes ago. My special guest, Charlie Sheen, arrived here at CNN headquarters in Los Angeles. And Charlie Sheen is here with me now. Charlie, why are you here? The vast audience has given you a standing ovation.
Thank you.
Why are you here?
Thank you for having me, by the way. It's really a pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, you're awesome.
What do you want to achieve with this interview?
I think you should tell a little bit of the backstory about how we first met.
Yeah, well, we met in the early 90s.
Yes.
And it was in Aspen, Colorado. You were at the launch of Planet Hollywood there, the restaurant chain. And you did me a big favor. You know, I remember that everyone was trying to get an interview with you. You weren't keen to do it, didn't have much time.
Right.
I asked you if you'd do it. You listened to me. You did the interview, and I always appreciated it. And I always said to you, I'd owe you one. And watching all the interviews that you've been doing in the last 48 hours, what I felt was...
couple.
Yeah, and I kind of felt that it was all on a big, huge roller coaster, that everything seems a little bit out of control. And I wanted to give you a platform for 1 hour where you could really set the record straight in perhaps a slightly more controlled environment. And we get to the bottom of this incredible crisis which has unfurled with your show, with CBS, and with you in your life.
Sure.
And, you know, I want you to say whatever you want to say. You know, I just want to get to the bottom. I want to get away from the craziness.
Yeah, of course.
And I want to get...
I didn't bring any craziness, don't worry.
I want to get a sense of what has really been going on here and your take on it.
It's been a tsunami of media, and I've been riding it on a Mercury surfboard. Right off the bat, sorry. But it's no. I'm on a mission right now. It's an operation actually to right some terrible wrongs, because there's been some things that have happened as a result of of rehab or crisis management, and the show's temporary suspension thus far, and I just think it's important that people hear the truth and hear it from me, because I'm at the dead epicenter of every single moment that's been going on in this thing. Yeah.
Here's the weird thing. In Hollywood, normally a show gets cancelled or suspended when ratings fall or it's just not working out. In this case, you're at the top of your game. You are, right now, until a few days ago, the highest paid star on television in America and therefore the world. The number one. The show has been ripping up the ratings. Yeah. There is no sensible reason why this show has been suspended, maybe cancelled.
Sure.
It's all about you and your private life. And there are two schools of thought. Half the people that I talk to say Charlie should behave better. It doesn't reflect well on him and CBS to behave in this way. My view, for what it's worth, and I said this to you when I talked to you this morning.
It's worth a lot.
My view is I think you're entitled to behave how the hell you like. As long as you don't, in the old-fashioned sense, scare the horses and the children, and you turn up to work on time and you do your job in a professional way, which clearly the ratings suggest you were, I don't really get what the problem's been here. Obviously I know what your view would be, but articulate why you think this is completely wrong.
Well, I mean, I can sort of understand why they felt like they had to intervene when they did. You know, it was, I think it was a Tuesday, it was during a week off, and things had been a little sideways, I'll admit that. Yeah, I was running it, burning it at both ends, and, you know, I'm not going to say it wasn't epic and I wasn't having a ball, and all those around me weren't completely enjoying the show. And yeah, we're on a rocket ship to the moon some nights, but if you do the crime, you got to do the time. So you know, if you're an amateur and you can't show up for work or hit your marks or deliver your dialogue and do comedy when you're sideways, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame. But I am, and that's never been an issue. So it was during a week off. They rolled in and said, okay, you got to shut it down. And I said, okay, I get it. You've seen me as being unprepared. And so,
did you ever feel, I mean, listen, you've talked this week about having benders that would put Keith Richards and Sinatra to shame, which I thought was a pretty spectacular claim, Charlie. I mean, that's one hell of a bender.
Yeah, thank you.
But again, I would reserve your right to lead your life how the hell you like. The big question, it seems to me, in terms of your contractual obligation to CBS, is did you turn up on the set late? Were you badly behaved on the set? Did you let people down? Were you unprofessional?
Well, yeah, I was late a couple days when we were just practicing, when it was just rehearsal. I never cost the production or the show or the studio or the network any money, as far as missing a show or missing a day. That was a money day. There's 2 money days during the week, and I've never missed one. There's been a couple days where I had to pull the audience just because of personal stuff or divorce or a divorce, and so, you know, like that. But I just never really understood what the big deal about, you know, missing a day of practice, because I know, you know, I do 177 shows, not to promote being on autopilot, but you know, some of us are just better equipped to work in that headspace, you know. But yeah, they said I got too thin. They said I was too thin, and the year before they said I was a little bloated. So I was bloated and tanned, but thin and white. So I thought if I could mix maybe thin with tan, that bloated and white would go away, you know. So sort of a color wheel, yeah.
Perfect hybrid.
Yeah. So
too bloated and too white and
thin. I was skinny and tanning, mental tanning. But anyway, so they started putting me in a fishbowl. And every Friday night, it turned into the big executive kind of in the corner, hush-hush dialogue, whispered dialogue about my condition. And it was a really hard situation to work in. You know, I felt really it felt kind of weird. It felt creepy. It felt like I was being, I don't know, it felt like an intrusion, because I feel like when I step between the lines, that's the time I get to be free. You know, I can do all the rehearsing, all the practicing, all that stuff, and you know, go through the motions and give them a sense of what it's going to look like. But when I get between the lines, when it's time to play ball, that's when I feel free.
I mean, you're a smart businessman.
I don't know about that.
Well, you are. You make a lot of money. You make, was it $1.8 million a show?
Doesn't mean I save any.
You know what?
Whatever.
You can spend it how you like, Charlie.
Schmave.
Yeah, but look, in terms of business, you understand how this works.
Sure.
I guess from CBS's point of view, the stories about your behavior,
right,
as they began to accelerate, they're getting advertisers screaming at them saying, this is not the fit we want for this show.
Did any advertisers actually pull off? I'm just curious.
Do you know if they did?
Did we lose Gillette, Target, Walmart, Volvo?
What is the answer to that?
I don't know. Maybe you have.
I don't know the answer.
Answers.
No, I don't know the answer.
I didn't do that research.
But did you hear that was the case?
I heard threats of it. Yeah, which to me felt like, okay, that could be real. It could be just just an empty threat. I don't know.
Would you accept, if that was the case, that your behavior then had to be moderated?
Absolutely, because then now we're into commerce. Right. Now we're into the money. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Did anybody at CBS tell you before they suspended you? Were there repeated warnings, as they're trying to suggest to people?
There was one.
That if you carried on behaving in this manner and it got into the papers, you would be in big trouble.
There was one, but it wasn't delivered in a way that was there was a threat. Les Moonves came to my house, and we had a very lovely chat at my kitchen table, and he said, look.
He's the boss of CBS.
Yeah, he said, just try to pull it back a little bit and just maybe get back below the radar. You know, and he was asking me to maybe locate a gear I haven't quite been too familiar with, you know. And I said, no problem, boss, no problem. Then the thing with the hernia and whatever else, it was like the hernia I heard around the world, you know. And it was a real hernia.
So, but Les Moonves, to be fair to him, he did warn you in a friendly way. Would it be fair to say you didn't heed that warning?
Well, my hernia didn't heed that warning. I mean, come on, let's talk the facts, you know.
You're not going to blame your hernia for all this.
No. I'll own that. Yeah, and I guess I wound up in a hospital. Whatever. Anyway.
But is it a whatever? My point, I guess, from their point of view, is they've given you a warning. He's the boss of the network.
Good point.
And he's saying...
I'll own that, sure. Yeah.
He's got a valid point then afterwards to say, Charlie, we had a deal. You looked me in the eye and you said, I'm not going to behave like this.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so yeah. So I was actually... I was actually grateful when they came in, because it was during a week off, during the hiatus week, and I was actually looking forward to maybe shutting this down, maybe looking for something else. It was getting a little boring, as I've said in a few of these other pieces. I just didn't have the same feeling, the same kind of traction that it had the previous 8 months, whatever. I overshot the mark. Literally woke up and it was Christmas. What are you gonna do? Didn't buy any gifts either. So yeah, and it was during the week when that was sort of already the headspace. So when they rolled in, I went, I get it. Okay, I'm grateful. I can do this. But I said, look, guys, here's the thing. I can't do this for too long, because I will heal very fast. And they're saying, well, we're talking about 6 weeks. I'm like, no. I'll heal in 1 or 10 days or whatever. And he said, well, okay, but we're thinking at least a month. I said, whatever, that's fine. The funny thing was that he said that the Warner jet is on the runway and you're going to Utah. And I looked at my manager and I said, hey, the first time I got the jet. Right on, guys. So I agreed to shut it down. And then, as promised, I healed really fast. I said, guys, I'm ready to go back to work. And
you base that healing claim on previous experience?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been, you know, a veteran of these wars, a veteran of the unspeakable at times, and so, yeah, I just knew how to do it, and what I didn't know was going to happen was this epiphanous sort of re-energized awakening with a whole new set of powers, a whole new set of focus.
I mean, do you believe there's a slight hypocrisy here in the sense we're in Hollywood?
Right.
If you were in a rock band in Hollywood, this kind of behavior would be not only accepted, it would be encouraged because it's part of the brand of the rock band.
Right.
You know, you seem to be leading a rock star life, and if you were Keith Richards or Mick Jagger, no one would bat an eyelid. Right. It's the fact that you're in a network show.
Sure.
Which
absolutely.
carries with it. I mean, do you accept it carries responsibilities, which are different?
Absolutely it does, yeah.
So do you believe, when you're being critical of yourself, Charlie, and this is, I suppose, a key part of this, when you look at your own behaviour, do you feel slightly ashamed by some of it? Do you wish you hadn't gone down certain pathways in the last few months?
I think it's a waste of time because I can't change it. You know, I tell people that are sort of, you know, glued to their past, if you can walk back there and bring me a souvenir from that moment when your father locked you in the closet, then bring it to me. Bring me the ashtray from his office with that burning Swisher Sweet in it. You can't. The moment's over. It doesn't exist. We got to get into right here, right now. You know, and so
if Les Moonves was sitting here,
yeah,
based on what you've told me, that he came to your house and he asked you to behave,
sure,
and then you accept you didn't, would you apologize for not behaving after that conversation?
Yes, and then I would ask him, why did you lie to me about the crew in front of Mark Berg and Oren Koulis, my management team?
What was that?
Well, when I said, guys, I don't want to be gone too long. I can't be gone too long because I'm worried about the crew. They've got families, they've got mortgages, they've got lives that are check to check, you know? And he said, don't worry about the crew. You have our word, him and his partner Bruce, you know? And then it was just until, actually today, just a few hours ago, that we caught wind that they agreed to pay the crew for 4 episodes. That's okay, it's a start. I'm not stopping until they give them 8. Then I'm going to work on my cast, then I'm going to finish with me.
Do you feel guilty about the impact your particular situation's had on the rest of the crew?
Well, I feel guilty. The perception of it has been that I'm the guy to blame for all of it, you know, because no one was in Sober Valley Lodge. No one was in these situations or in the middle of this scenario that I was. So nobody had the facts, and that's what I stand on. And that's what fuels me is the truth.
Has Les Moonves tried to call you?
Nobody's tried to call me.
Nobody at all?
No one's tried to call me. In fact, we're live, right?
Yeah.
Sorry I didn't wear a suit or anything. Well, time issue. Yeah, I would urge Les or Bruce or Chuck Lorre or anyone to call in while we're here. I mean, if, you know,
well, I'd encourage that. I mean, if anyone at CBS wants to call in.
Chuck has not answered the questions that I asked with Jeff Rawson, who's awesome, by the way, that guy. You should have him on. I don't know why, but just have him on. He's awesome.
He's a rival. I can't do that.
Whatever. Everybody wins.
Professional rival.
I know. Well,
no, but I mean, actually, to be serious, if anybody at CBS, Les Moonves or anybody else is watching this, and I'd imagine it would have been made aware of it now, I would encourage them to call in, because it seems to me what's broken down here as well. And
there's no communication.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this isn't about me like, oh, until I get an apology, I'm not dealing. No, until like some conversations take place that involve compensation for the 8 shows that we were slated to do. Because when I came back and said, guys, okay, now I'm prepared, and Les said just that Mr. Chow's called me his cleanup hitter, and now you got your cleanup hitter, and it's late August, and I'm sitting on 64 bombs at 420 and 170 driven in, and we're not even in the playoffs yet, you know, and so I'm sitting there, and the team bus is driving away. There's a tarp over the infield. There's like, I got no team to play for, you know? So I became very prepared and focused and driven and hungry and in shape and a new tattoo and like, let's do this, right? And so Chuck Lorre told me, well, there's no scripts. So I said, there's no scripts. Okay, wait a minute. You're a writer. I need, cameras on a stage to act. You need, I don't know, a piece of paper and a Bic. There's no scripts. So where were the scripts going to be if, in fact, we hadn't shut down? This basically turned into a 2-week hiatus.
Do you think,
where were the scripts? Chuck, where are the scripts?
Let me ask you, Joe, do you believe that there was a subliminal plot at CBS that they wanted to get rid of you?
Wow. You mean like a conspiracy?
Possibly.
Damn, we should probably go to a commercial.
I'll tell you what.
Oh, no, sorry.
Hello, actually, that's a good point.
I don't know.
Let's go to a commercial.
No, I don't think so.
Let's go to a commercial.
So. Yeah.
Think about the answer to that question, because I think it's quite interesting.
Right on.
Senator Scott Brown opens up on Piers Morgan. See it on tomorrow night, 9 Eastern.
back now live with Charlie Sheen. Charlie, when we went to the break, I asked you whether you thought that perhaps behind all this was some effort at CBS by the producers of the show and maybe executives there, that they'd had enough of all the publicity and they were trying to get rid of you, and this seemed a clever way of doing it.
I don't know. I mean, that's giving them a whole lot of credit, you know, that they could concoct something that diabolical. If they are, in fact, doing that, I have to tip my hat to them because it's most impressive. I don't think that's the case. I really don't.
I mean, again, I would come back. It's a strange thing to do to a guy who's the star of their big show, right?
Well, plus, it begs the question, why didn't they just replace me after season 7 when I was asking for a ton of dough and say, all right, well, no, we're going to do the show, but not with you.
Let me ask you a direct question.
They had a chance to get rid of me a couple times.
Yeah, they did.
And it's on them now.
And I would imagine they took the decision not to, probably for commercial reasons. You're too successful for them.
Well, I just don't know how Sumner Redstone explains that to his shareholders. We're unloading the reason that the show is a hit.
Let me ask you a direct question. Are you under the influence right now of any substances?
No, nothing. I'm under the influence of you.
Apart from the drug of doing this interview.
You. Yes.
That may not be the best influence,
well,
I'll take it.
I'll take it. It looks pretty cool to me, you know.
But you took a drug test to prove that you are currently completely drug-free.
Yeah, where are those results?
You actually got the results on you?
Well, yeah, these days, I mean, carry this stuff with you, right?
And when was this taken?
It was taken, when was it taken? Yesterday?
And this is
the day before.
Okay, yeah. So assuming this is accurate, which I believe it is, this is completely clean. So when was the last time you took a drug? I
don't know, because not being, you know, held hostage by AA anymore, I don't count my days, because I put such a premium on them, and then you run around with your days going, oh God, don't lose your days, don't lose your days. Boom, I lost my days, and then it's like, where'd my days go?
You've said
keep coming back, keep coming back. Here's your 1 day back. Everything's cool.
I'm going to come to the treatment aspect in a moment, but I'm curious, if you had your time again, would you ever get into drugs? Do you wish you'd never got on that step?
There's a couple things I wish I hadn't started. One of them is smoking cigarettes, but now I had a CT scan. I have the lungs of a non-smoker, which is a little bit weird after, 2 packs a day for 25 years. Of course, you can't hear it in my voice or anything. But
what about drugs, narcotics?
Drugs, yeah, but I guess that there is some school of thought that dictates that we are the sum total of all of our experiences, both good or bad, win, lose, or draw, like that. So I don't think I would trade any of it because I'm still alive, which is pretty cool.
Have there been moments when you've thought to yourself, and I'm talking recently in some of these benders that you've talked about, where you thought, you've been hospitalized a couple of times, where you thought, I may die?
Probably more subconsciously, not so much at the forefront of, within the scenario or whatever's taking place. Yeah, it's of course it had crossed my mind. I'd be a liar if I sat here and said it hadn't, but not to the point where I ever felt like I was blacking out or passing out or having a giant heart pain or something like that. But it doesn't, I can't be in denial and say that it didn't feel that something could have gone sideways real quick.
I mean, addiction specialists, you've seen them all coming out in the last few
years. I've been
days.
around them for 22 years.
Right.
They've been lying to me for 2 decades.
Right, well, and we'll come to that. But the premise of their argument with you is that you're in some kind of denial about this, and actually you've never really stopped and thought, I've got to sort myself out properly, that if you do follow their programs, they can work, and lots of people would be watching this saying, it worked for me.
And then I can have a life like theirs? I'm going to pass.
Really? Why?
Why? Because I'm a winner, and their lives look like they're, ruled by losers. I mean, just to put it in black and white terms. I don't want their lives, and they want mine, but they want to criticize the hell out of it, And now they've run the gamut from like, okay, he's not loaded, now what? Oh, he's manic. I don't even know what that means. That, I guess, would imply that there's going to be a crash. I don't know when that's coming, but maybe you can cover it when it does,
See, some of the interviews you've given,
I've listened to a little excited.
Well, no, some of them I thought you've been a little bit, some of them I thought you've been a little bit erratic.
Yeah,
when I'm listening to you tonight, on this interview, I don't think you sound that crazy at all. You sound alarmingly normal, if I may use that phrase.
Thank you. No, I am here. I'm right here.
But I can't
I'm
pretend
available.
As somebody who knew you from the early 90s, I can't pretend I haven't watched the stories from afar and thought, I hope he's okay. I hope that he's not going to do something stupid here.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And a lot of your fans will be watching this feeling the same way, that it's kind of, you're on tender hooks with you all the time, that leading your life on the edge like this is a constant worry for family, for friends, for fans, isn't it?
I wish people would shift that focus onto themselves and their own family and their own friends, and just maybe spend a little more time on their home front and not some distant planet that is me, and not offer opinions and judgments about a guy they don't even know. It's a guy that, you know, even if I get an interview that's, you know, a Q&A, oh, you can control it. No, you can't, man. There's bookends to tell you how you're supposed to feel before you read it, and then how you're supposed to feel after you're done. And so people don't really ever get a sense of who I am, or what I am, or why I am.
Are you a happy guy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my motto is enjoy every moment. And
the people seem all addicts have to be essentially unhappy people.
I don't believe myself to be an addict. I really don't. I think that I'm going to just ignore or smash or finally dismiss a model that I think is rooted in vintage balderdash, you know, for lack of a better word.
What would you call yourself if you're not an addict?
I mean, what's another word?
I mean, do you think it's simply a case of you like to party? Is it as simple as that?
Well, no, I mean, as long as I subscribe to the beliefs of others that build these models that don't really leave any room for individuality or creativity or anything, that, like, you know, they say you've got to surrender and you got to get rid of your resentments, you got to sit in a room and, like, be all lame, you know? I can't find a label other than just alive. There's this great quote going around, yeah, I'm high on a drug, it's called Charlie Sheen, and it's like...
I saw that. I laughed.
That's a good line.
Listen, I know you well enough to know when you're joking.
Yeah, of course.
And I've laughed at a lot of the things you've been saying which have enraged other people, because if you don't know you know, when I interviewed you in the 90s, you were hilarious.
Thank you.
And I took about 90% of what you said with what we would say in Britain was a pinch of salt.
There you go.
It was funny, and I still think that you are seeing the humour in all this whilst going through what is a pretty awful situation, and you're feeling angry, but I get the fact you still feel humour as well, right?
Well,
some of it's absurdly funny.
I have to, and I'm trying to remind people there's a reason that I've had, like, mad success doing comedy. You know, you can't be, like, completely boring and asleep and do, like, really good comedy.
If you were running a network,
right?
Let's put you on the spot for a moment. You're in charge of CBS.
I need your tie. I'm going to need your tie for starters. Sorry.
Okay, well, we'll swap ties.
All right. Okay.
So you're running the network.
Right.
How would you have reacted to the star of your #1 family comedy, which is watched by families and liked by families, behaving off-screen in the way that you've been behaving?
Well, I mean, if I was... I'd first look at the writing. I'd look at a lot of the stuff that they were already getting away with, because if anything, that's the first shot across the bow at the family aspect of it. And I mean, there's always, you know, a pee-pee or a butt or a, you know, poo-poo joke or a thing, and I'm being, like, kind right now, in ways that they make you see things or feel imagery that is that's just juvenile and gross, and it's not. I don't think it comes close to, or I think it eclipses some of the stuff I'm doing out there on my most epic nights, you know.
And of course, the irony is your character's not exactly a saint.
No,
I mean, he's
not. He's not.
I mean, there's a certain brand alignment here, isn't there?
Right, but it's okay to smoke cigars, just not cigarettes. It's okay to drink, you know, tons of vodka, but don't go near cocaine, because God forbid people ever...
Okay to be a big womanizer on the show, but not in real life.
No.
Do you think there's a hypocrisy there?
I think that they, in some way, think that they have some magic literary influence over me by perhaps writing things and then going, oh my God, look how powerful we are. Now he's doing it. No, morons. The reason the show was created was because of the lifestyle I had, and you guys based it on that. You know, so I gave you so much of your fodder already.
Let's have another breakdown, Charlie. When we come back, I want to talk to you about the women in your life.
Love it.
Charlie Sheen is my special guest tonight. Charlie, tell me about the women in your life. To put it mildly, your life is unconventional.
Pretty good word for it. I think it's just straight out bitching. Well, there's the Natty, and then there's the Rach. These are the goddesses, as I've
and
referred to them.
What function do the goddesses perform?
Oh gosh, I mean, name it.
You have two girlfriends, basically.
I do, yeah, and it's what David Moore described as the wedge.
The wedge?
The wedge, yes.
What is the wedge?
The wedge is a football term it's a formation that controls the guy carrying the ball. My man. So,
let me ask you, let me play devil's advocate for a moment, because I've got to admit that part of me, when I listen to you talk, I chuckle. I don't get nearly as sense.
I do too.
I don't get as sense other people. But I'm also aware, I'm a family guy, I've got 3 kids, I'm also aware that there'll be lots of people watching.
Yeah,
right,
sure.
And there'll be people watching saying, all right, go tougher on Charlie here, because you have been until recently, you've been taking a lot of illegal drugs. You are on a family show. You do have a responsibility as a role model to people who are watching the show, especially their kids. You have your own kids. You're a dad of 5 kids yourself. How far do you feel that sense of responsibility in terms of your personal behavior?
Well, now with some distance from it, I realize its value, and I plan to maintain it and protect it like a precious gem for the rest of my days.
Do you think you got out of control?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have another gear,
It was as bad as you've ever been?
Well, no, I wouldn't say it was as bad. It was just as busy as I've ever been.
The infamous bender that we read about a few weeks ago, what did you actually consume in that bender? What was a Charlie Sheen bender like?
Which bender are we talking about?
The one where we had 5 women coming over your house at sort of 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah, I didn't know there was going to be a math test, I don't know if there were 5. I don't think there were 5. At least there wasn't 5 that were doing that thing.
Right.
No, the reason it went bad is because I don't do pills. I don't take opiates. I don't do benzos. I don't do any of that stuff. Any of the psychotropic nonsense. So...
You take cocaine, right?
Well, I used to. Yeah. I got to be careful because there's like lawsuits and things going on and whatever.
No, until you stopped, you were taking a lot of cocaine.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not taking it. I had to pay for it, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So anyway,
what would you have taken on that particular bender?
Well, I hadn't done any for a while, like 7 hours, but I had this hernia thing that was popping out, and I might have caught a piece of the bowel. Sounds gross, but that's how a doctor described it. And the pain was as though someone was driving a hot saber through my gut. And because I won't take a pain pill, because those things are like, wow. Actually, George Carlin said I would, I already have pain and an anti-pain pill. But so I won't take those. So I maybe hit the vodka a little too hard to reduce the pain, and I just kind of was that final push, that final drop down the falls, and then I guess somebody decided to call 911, and actually Stephanie Matlow, Tony Todd, they took care of that thing perfectly. It was the other voices that we hear on the tapes that kind of got things confused.
But Charlie, when you wake up after these benders, and let's assume for the argument's sake there won't be any more, you decided you're going to stop.
Yeah.
With your kids in particular, a lot of parents say to me, ask Charlie, when he wakes up from these things, how do you feel about the reaction that they're going to have when they're in the school playground with their friends, all the embarrassment that comes their way?
I mean, it's a shame, and it's a shame that we live in an evil world like that sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. That stuff I can't control. What I can control is them never being exposed to anything dangerous, ever, at any point in time.
So you've never had any drugs in the house when your kids were around?
No. And if it was my weekend, then we would go somewhere else. If it was, they just weren't there, I would never, those things just don't go together, But that's just common sense and courtesy, right?
It is. I mean, there's still... Listen, you know what people say about what's been going on.
Yeah.
A lot of people can get very moralistic about this.
Of course.
I would say, in your case, again, I come back to you. You're entitled to, I think, pretty much do what you like in your own life. It is illegal, what you were doing. If you're running a big network like CBS, are you entitled to say you broke the law, therefore you're in breach of your contract?
Well, it's only illegal if I admit to it, and they've never once checked with me. You always got to consider the source. And you look at some of these retarded zombies, these trolls that roll out of there and heading back for the rock to crawl back under before the sun peeks out. And they're putting so much stock into the words and the thoughts and as I've said, the gibberish of fools, and not checking anything with me. There's no interest in cross-checking a story with me.
But you wouldn't deny taking loads of cocaine?
Well, no, of course not. I mean, but I'm just saying...
So isn't that a bit of a moot point, really? I mean, it's like...
No, I'm just talking about some of the sources that they put that's the basket they put all their eggs in,
But do you actually...
That's a weird metaphor, by the way.
Right, it is.
Wow.
But you don't think anyone's really exaggerated the scale of it? I mean, when you say you've out-partied Keith Richards, for example, we get the general gist of what's been going on.
I might have been exaggerating. I didn't have my blood all, changed, That's a gnarly move, by the way. But, yeah, no, I stumbled into an area suddenly in my brain that didn't need sleep, and that was the problem.
Right.
Because I could function without sleep. And when you can do that, if you can get through the day, then you sort of park the night and start making plans for the night ahead, and it's just on, and things get a little bit, you tend to overshoot the mark.
People who are experts in this kind of thing say that one of the reasons why you've been firing off in the way that you have is that it's a classic symptom of a guy who was taking a lot of drugs and then stops.
Right, so I'm on a pink cloud.
Possibly?
Yeah.
What do you think?
And in their opinion, or in their vast research, pink clouds have to go away. Can't you just be in a pink cloud your whole life and just be super bitching and focused? Like,
do you feel angrier now, though, than when you were, say, 6-7 weeks ago? Do you feel angry now?
No, I feel more alive. I feel more focused. I feel more energetic. My workouts are really intense. I'm in training for a movie because now I got time to do it.
You're physically fit.
Well, yeah. No, I was at my high school weight of like 160. But I'm also a ball player, and I need to be strong to never fail in front of my heroes again, like I did at UCLA that day. They say, "Oh, it's not a failure. You bounced a couple balls in front of the wall." Are you kidding me? Those same pitches are usually halfway up the light tower, you know?
Can you get insurance for movies and stuff now because of what's been going on?
I mean, nobody has said that they can't, and I know that Roman Coppola is about to get financing for a film we're going to do, and that David Ward and I are going to do Major League 3, along with that guy right there, and Tony Todd. And then Stallone walked up in the gym the other day and said, "Hey, you want to do a movie?" And I'm like, "Sure." Not like, "What is it?" "Yeah, I'll do a movie with you. You're awesome. You're a rock star. You're in this Hall of Fame."
And you've had calls from people like Mel Gibson and other people who've been through similar stuff to you. What did Mel say to you?
He was just great. He was just like, not calling with any advice, just thought you might like to hear a friendly voice. And he's a stone cold dude. I was really impressed. Sean was over the other night.
Sean Penn.
Sorry to out you, Sean. What
did he say to you?
Oh, he was just happy to see me, and we just had a few laughs, and we took a photo on the couch that was on my show, the episode that he did, and it was just, he met the goddesses, and he just.
Do any of these guys say, "Come on, Charlie, enough's enough"? Do any of them do that to you?
No, because they're too smart for that.
But
you mean during the party or during, like, right now?
No, I mean before you. Obviously now you're off the drugs and stuff. When you were in all the papers in the last few weeks.
Absolutely. No, they wouldn't be my best friends if they didn't. Of course they were rolling through and saying, "Dude, you win. It's it. You're done." Carrie Elwes, for instance, calling. He says, "All right, dude, all of them, Flynn, Sinatra, Richards, all of them." He says, "You win. It's over. There's nothing left." I'm like, "You're right, damn it. Okay." And
when it's guys like that saying to you, are they the people you listen to more than anybody on the outside?
Well, yeah, because they know me. They know who I am, and they've known me for a long time. So, and plus they've been in similar situations where you're sort of trying to balancing, fame and work and all the family components and everything else that comes along with it.
I mean, is it hard being the star, the highest paid star on American television? Does it bring with it a peculiar pressure? You're very competitive. You said earlier you like to win, you like to be a winner.
Sure, yeah.
Because you're so competitive, that pressure when you're number one, to stay number one, can that in itself drive you to go and seek release? To want to go and just have a few days getting away from it all?
Of course, yeah. No, that's I'm sure one of the elements that might drive it, but I don't think that that's it entirely. For me, it got into a redundancy issue. Got into this thing about what others would call discipline, structure, focus, all that available. It just came down to me just bored out of my freaking tree, and that's why I kept giving them numbers at the 7-year mark, to not come back, and they finally just said, more. And my friend Mark Holder said, this is really on them. Didn't they know who they were giving all this dough to? It's giving it to that guy, and they thought nothing was going to change? I mean, he was joking, of course. Right?
Yeah, but there's a certain truth to that. It's not like, not like you became a party boy in the last year. I mean, you've always been a legendary Hollywood hellraiser. Mm-hmm. So giving you $1.8 million a show is a bit like giving a kid who's got a sweet addiction a candy store.
Right. You mean the whole store?
Pretty much. Yeah. You've had the whole story.
Yeah. I don't know. Gosh, where do we go from here?
The only way is up, Charlie. I'll tell you what, we'll go to a break.
Okay, right on.
Have a think about it.
Okay.
Now my special live guest, Charlie Sheen. Charlie, there have been reports in the papers in the last 2 or 3 years hinting at violence by you towards, one was towards your wife and one was towards a porn star in a hotel. Right. Were they true? Did the drugs make you violent? Do you regret what happened on those two incidents?
No, those are 2 instances where the scoreboard doesn't lie. And that, you know, the Aspen thing was thrown out. The judge was like, just get this guy out of my county. He brings too much press with him. And then the police report in New York just didn't reflect anything. And those are the guys that are going to report the facts, or their jobs are on the line. So I just offer people those, you know.
Have you ever hit a woman?
I have not, no. Women are not to be hit. They're to be hugged and caressed, you know.
Few people that are very close to you have expressed real concern.
I'm sorry. There was an incident years ago, and everybody thought I hit her. I was trying to contain her, and I had her arms, and we both went to the ground, and she hit her.
Who was that?
Her initials are B.A. I'll give you that much. I don't want to make the whole thing about her, you know. Okay. And I felt terrible, and I delivered her to a plastic surgeon and tried to, like, you know, and everybody said, you hit her, and I'm like, no, she hit her thing, and whatever, it's over. But I felt bad about that one, yeah.
You regret that?
Yeah, she was attacking me, though. With a small fork, like a cocktail fork, and I think she had it with her. That's the weird part. What was she doing with like a shrimp fork in her purse?
But is there ever any?
She stole it clearly.
But is there any
from a buffet?
For that?
Sorry,
I know. But is there any ever any defense?
Well, you can't. Whatever story you come up with sounds like you've made it up. So, and that's the truth, and that's what happened.
But you regret that incident?
Oh God, yeah. But I never really told the story about that because everybody was under a gag order or something. But there were heinous things that led up to that I was trying to fend off. Whatever, I'll own it. And so I just remember that when you asked. That's the only time that it was presumed that I'd done so.
Your publicist, Stan.
He quit.
He quit today.
He quit.
He had enough.
Stan, where are you? Stan, what happened?
I'll be honest with you, I really like Stan.
I do too.
He's a thoroughly decent guy.
Stan, where'd you go?
Well, he loves you, but he felt
Clearly not.
Well, he felt that he couldn't control you anymore. You were uncontrollable.
What's the control? Just get over here and enjoy the ride, bro. We're starting to win.
But hard for a publicist if you're acting as your own publicist.
I mean, I like to believe that the progress I've made in the last few days is a slightly better plan than some of the stuff he was rolling out with at times. You know, I've been able to answer calls and deal with people directly. And I've said, well, why should I talk to you? We've had a lousy relationship all these years. And they'll say, well, we've never really spoken. And I'll say, okay, great. Let's park all that. And then let's say it's never too late to get a fresh start. And
what would you say to Stan if he's watching this?
Get back over here and stop with your silliness. I just said Stan, not a woman.
Yeah. The other man who's obviously very important in your life, your father, Martin Sheen, described your illness is like a cancer.
Dude, relax. It's so dramatic, you know? He's entitled to that. I don't support it. Sorry.
Have you talked to him about it?
I have not, no. I just, this quote of his is like following me everywhere, you know?
You haven't discussed it with him?
No, I'm sure he'll hear something about it in one of these interviews, but I'm just, as much as I love him, I'm 45 with 5 kids, you know?
But does he not call you as a matter of course? Do you not speak to him much?
No, I mean, he's been out of the country, I think. That's why he hasn't called. But I mean,
he's your dad, and you're going through this tumultuous period in your life.
I mean, I think people think that it's a lot harder on me than it is. You know, I'm on a quest to claim absolute victory across the board on every front in this whole mess. I'm here to right, as I said, every single wrong, and reveal the people that are responsible for all of this foolishness.
Is your game plan to actually end up getting your job back?
Well, I would love that, yeah. I mean, I signed a deal for 2 years.
But you said earlier in the interview, Charlie, that you were bored with it. This is one of the problems that you had.
Right, there was a redundancy factor to it, but that doesn't matter. That was an old brain, I got a new brain, you know. I have a 10,000-year-old brain and the boogers of a 7-year-old. That's how I describe myself, you know.
So since you've been clean, in your head, have you thought, you know, something I've nearly lost here?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
One of the great jobs in television.
Yes, pick it back up, you know, suit up, boot up, and let's get this thing back on the air.
And do you have it in you to be disciplined enough now?
Absolutely.
To not fall by the wayside?
I'll be waiting on them. I'll be waiting on them.
You said in an interview today that you wanted a pay rise.
No, that was stupid.
Were you joking?
No, I was joking about being underpaid, but to come back season 10, that's all negotiable. You can't talk about this stuff on television. Then why did you? I don't know. He's on crack. Where's Dr. Drew when you need him?
Well, funny enough, we had got a clip from Dr. Drew.
I love that guy.
I did interview Dr. Drew, actually.
Did you? Yeah.
He was quite interesting because anyone
There's
who's
no way to get that time back.
Well, I think a lot of these guys who are involved in treating addicts.
Are they addicts themselves? What are his credentials? I don't even know who this man is.
Let's take a quick listen of Dr. Drew. Let's hear what he said to me.
Okay, this ought to be stunning.
Two separate conditions. There's the addiction, which gets triggered, which is the biological disorder of the brain, and there are the underlying environmental and psychological issues that push somebody over into addiction in the first place. The issue of dealing with the so-called demons, which in my world, I always tell people, if you have bad enough addiction, you need to see me, 100% probability you had childhood trauma. So we're really talking about childhood trauma, and that takes years to sort through.
You're not taking that very seriously, are you?
Here are my notes.
What,
please.
What do you think when you hear that kind of professional advice?
I just think you cannot, I mean, come on, man. That's ridiculous to like have a prognosis about somebody you've never been in the same room with based on his image in a media setting. I think he should be ashamed of himself. I would never sit here and tell you who the heck he is or what drives or fuels him. I don't know. It's just got to dismiss these clowns.
Have you seen the programs for alcoholism and drug addiction? Have you seen it work for friends of yours?
Some, yeah, but
so you do accept it can work?
Well, but what they don't tell you at the door is that they have a 5% success rate. And as a retired gambler, I can 22 years around this thing. It's not like I gave it a year. I gave it, oh, gee, that's half my life, like 48%. And so, you know, at some point I got to go, I got to try something different. How about I rely on me?
Going to have another break now. When we come back, I'm just going to ask you how you see your future after all this gets sorted. And we'll be back in a moment with more with my special live guest, Charlie Sheen. Back now, my special guest, Charlie Sheen. Charlie, you were saying in the break when I spoke briefly to Anderson Cooper, you're seeing images from Libya and everything, and you kind of feel that you, being the centre of the news for the last few weeks, kind of crazy given everything else has been going on.
A little bizarre when you turn on the 11 o'clock news and I'm the lead story, and then they get to that. I'm thinking the world is upside down, you know. But I guess that shows the power of the business that I'm in. You know?
We've been through, obviously, the full range of what's been going on here. What I think is inarguable is that you clearly, if this had been handled in a different way, I think you'd have sat down and you would have expressed proper regret over some of your behaviour. I get that sense from you.
Of course I would. There's no gratitude here. There's none. There's no gratitude whatsoever. Nobody will like call me, have the decency to just call me.
What is the answer to where you found yourself with CBS and the show? Because there are millions of fans.
What is the answer as far as what? What do you mean?
Well,
as far as
millions of fans just want the show back on air.
So do I.
What is the way to make that happen?
I don't know, but it might involve all of us getting into a room.
And what would you say if you did?
I would say, okay, you've agreed to pay the crew 4 shows, you got to pay them 8, then you got to pay the rest of the cast 8, then you got to pay me 8, and then we can have a dialogue. That's just doing the right thing.
But what would you then sign up to in terms of personal behavior?
I don't, yeah, I mean, I guess I would have to play ball on some front, but I don't feel like they still have a right to interfere in my personal life. I really don't feel like, you know, I don't do it in theirs. You know, if they'll submit to all the same constraints, all the same, you know, points to that agreement, then fine, I'm on board. Well, but then I start hearing stories about they're going to hire John Stamos. It's like, you guys do that, you deserve everything that happens later, you know. Sorry, John, you're a lovely man, but you got on me on Howard Stern, bro, and I don't forget anything, you know.
So you're quite sensitive underneath the brash exterior.
Well, sensitive, yeah, when I have to be, sure. Yeah, but, you know, when I'm fighting a war, there's no room for sensitivity.
But has any of this really upset you? Properly upset you?
I was upset when, after being kind of picked on and a little bit, you know, that stuff by Chuck and the vanity cards for like 8 years, and I finally like fired back once. Now, my fire back was a 2,000-pound bomb, and it was, you know, laser guided.
Chuck Lorre, obviously, he's the creator of the show. He and you...
But he took his ball and went home.
Yeah,
I mean, one crack, he took his ball and went home. I'm like, dude, come on. If he wasn't already trying to get off the show, then I don't know what else is going on.
Here's the sadness. You guys must have been very good friends at some stage.
Never. No.
Really?
Never.
You never had that kind of relationship?
Well, probably like the first hour, maybe. And then it was like, you must let me impose my will all over your face. It was like, whoa, dude. I don't want anything that you got.
Do you regret making the little, what appeared to be an anti-Semitic dig at him?
Well, yes, I do. I regret it in a way that I didn't even think about it, and then, yeah, I should have thought about it. Stupid move. Sorry.
Would you say sorry to him if you had the chance for that?
Of course I would, but I didn't think that was, I thought the rules had been established. He calls me Carlos Estevez a lot, which is my real name, and then I saw the other name in his vanity card, and I said it, and the world just started burning down around me.
What's your biggest regret of all this? If you had your time again, what would you do differently?
Wow, again, we got to go back to those moments and bring back a souvenir. You know, you can't really change them.
You got to change it, but
yeah,
you can regret them.
I don't know. Maybe I should have been a little quieter, a little softer. But look what happens when you decide to blaze a trail. You find out that you know, that those that can't stand the heat around them, they don't really have the guts to survive. You know.
No one from CBS has called in the last hour, so
how much time do we have left?
We gave them the opportunity. They decided not to comment.
I know, and I just wonder why Chuck has not answered those questions that I gave to the other guy.
Right. If they make contact tomorrow, and if they say, why don't we try and all get together here and try and resolve this?
Right here. I'm not going anywhere.
You're available to do that.
Well, yeah, I don't have a job. I could come here and like color commentate for you.
I'd love that.
Okay, great.
You can come and co-host for a week if you like.
Call Rick.
How do you hope it ends?
I have a vision of us getting back on the air for season 9 and then doing season 10 and then cleaning up all this mess behind us, and then when we're back on the stage and doing it all perfectly and brilliantly, that a couple of adjustments will have been made. We all know where we stand right now, so we can't be like, hey, good to see you again. Not, you know, so
What about your fellow cast members? Have you talked to any of them?
I have not, because I don't feel like there's any real support there. No one has issued a statement. I have made a phone call. I get a couple angry texts, whatever. I ignore that. But I'm out here doing this for all of us, guys. I'm not here trying to embarrass you or ruin your jobs or ruin the show.
Do they feel you've let them down?
I don't know. I'd be speaking for them, but it would have been nice if there was some measure of support from anybody at this point. But that's all right, man. Every great movement begins with one man, and I guess that's me.
You're the kind of Che Guevara of Hollywood at the moment.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Nice.
Charlie, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
It's been fascinating, and I hope if you do get it sorted.
You're fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're awesome.
I hope you come back on when it gets resolved and talk about it.
Absolutely. After I've won.
Because I kind of feel that TV needs you.
Yes, it does.
You know, you're one of life's great characters.
Oh, thank you.
And
thank you, good sir.
You've admitted you've fallen by the wayside a little bit.
Sure, but
everyone's entitled to a second go, I reckon.
There you go.
So I wish you good luck with it.
Thank you, sir. Really a pleasure. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Keep winning.
An extraordinary interview there with Charlie Sheen. And I mean what I say. I hope that they resolve it and he's back on what's one of the best shows on TV, after all. That's all for us now.